Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. Today we have a pretty cool shell, although a discontinued one. Now this is Federal High Density Lead-Free Buckshot, obviously 12 gauge, gauge, made in the USA for those that care, and it is a 9-pellet double-aught at 1600 FPS. Now 9 pellets of double-aught should weigh very close to 1 1/8 ounces. If you measure it on a scale without buffer, usually 1.09 to 1.1. True ounce and an eighth is 1.125, so right at it. You can call it 1 1/8 ounces. But yeah, these are discontinued. Whoa, almost dropped them. Here is a buckshot size chart, which is pretty cool. Number 4 buck, 24 cal, all the way up to 36 cal, triple-aught buck. And if you look right there, one over from the right, double-aught buck is .33 or 33 caliber. Keep that in mind. I say keep that in mind because usually factory double-aught buck is 31 to 32 cal. It's almost never 33. Sometimes it can even be 34 or even 30. Double-aught buck is all over the place when it comes to factory offerings. But high density, the pellet's unique construction and tungsten iron material deliver superior knockdown power without punishing recoil. Combined with the flight control wad, they produce dense, consistent patterns. Now, this was sent to us by a viewer. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's like Michael, but with an S instead of a CH. So, yeah, I just don't know how to pronounce that. So, yeah, this says tungsten iron alloy, or, material. Whenever he contacted us about these, I believe he said they were TSS. And I think he was just a little confused. This is just high-density buckshot. And I don't know what density it is. It could be 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm not sure. The shells don't feel very heavy at all. In fact, I think they feel kind of light. When I opened the box, a little bit of buffer did spill out. No big deal. But, it could be better. The crimps on these, as you can see, fairly ugly. That one right there, you can see a pellet straight through it. And this one, yeah, no different. You can see straight through that. If we look at the pellets on the box, this appears to be Saturn shot. I think is what Federal calls it. You can see a band around the pellet. Now, if you know anything about ballistics, the more round an object is, like a ball, the truer, straighter, more accurate it will fly. A lot of people claim that this Saturn shot and those square pellets that Winchester has, they just make wider patterns. Which, yeah, I could agree with that. I've not tested any myself, but it would make sense. Back of the box, bunch of warnings. More warnings on this side. That's the specs. Again, 2 3/4 inch 12 gauge, 9 pellet double-aught buck at 1600 FPS. Done read that, and that's about it. So the shell itself, well, it's just your basic Federal Top Gun hull. I bet this has a plastic base wad, not the paper base wads. I don't know when Federal switched over from using the paper to the plastic base wad, but I think it was about 8 years ago. This has a 209A primer, brass-plated steel head on it, high brass. Brass height means nothing, it's all cosmetic. 2 3/4 inch once again, which is 70 millimeters. And, as I showed you a second ago, a pretty nasty looking fold. But, anyway, let's crack this open and see how they put it together. Okay, so there was a reason that they did not put the payload weight on the box. Usually it says ounce and an eighth, ounce and a quarter, 1 ounce. Well, that's because this is not even 7/8 of an ounce with the buffer. Let's put the wad in there, and we have 0.98 of an ounce, which is not an ounce. A little bit under, nowhere close to that 1 1/8 ounces that regular old lead 9-pellet double-aught should weigh. This says high density. High density compared to what? Steel? If I remember right, 9 pellets of steel 33 cal is 11/16 of an ounce. If I remember right, I could be wrong about that. But this isn't steel. It's not tungsten. It's a tungsten iron alloy, so it makes sense for it to be higher density than straight steel, I guess. But Wonder how much of just the pellets weigh. Well, there's your answer right there. Just a hair over 3/4. And yes, I did zero out the wad there. So that is the true weight of the pellets. You might as well call that 0.78, which is in between 3/4 and 13/16. But yeah, the pellets are indeed that Saturn-shaped shot. Say that 3 times fast. But yeah, you can see the little band around the center of it. These do not look like 33 cal to me. They look closer to like 31 cal. I'll measure one in just a second, but let's see how much one pellet weighs. I'll weigh it in ounces and grains. So it is 0.086 of an ounce. Grains, that would be 38 grains. Let's call it 38. Now, if we get an actual 33 cal double aught here, it weighs 56 grains. In ounces, that is 0.128. So again, 0.128 to 0.086. That is quite a bit lighter. And can we see the difference just by eye? Yes, we can. The pellet that Federal is using is noticeably smaller than the true 33 cal double aught. It is noticeably smaller. So they are not using double aught, and it is not what I would call high density. It's just higher density than straight steel. Yeah, nowhere near as dense as lead, which is not what I expected at all. I expected this to be something along the lines of like a heavy shot material around 13 grams per cubic centimeter, not probably 8. For those curious, this is how they're stacked in here. They're stacked by 2s with 1 on top, and there is room for a 10th pellet. In my opinion, they should have just made this a 10 pellet shell, but that would go against marketing. People would see 10 pellets and freak out. That's not going to pattern worth a dang. It's not 9 pellets. Guys, pellets stacked by 2s, an even number, 8 or 10, will outdo 9 any day of the week. I know personally we've got a lot of messages and comments about, hey, I've seen 8 pellet double aught, how does that do? Or I've seen 10 pellet, that's weird. It's just not traditional, it's not standard. The standard for 12 gauge is 9 pellets of double aught, but 8 or 10, once again, patterns way better because those are stacked by 2s. It's less pellet contact, you know, pellet to pellet, just patterns better. For those that did the math, the buffer in this weighs almost 1/10 of an ounce, so you can call that an 1/8 of the total weight of the Buckshot there, which is just wild to think about. That's a lot of buffer. The buffer's probably pretty dense too, to weigh that much. And the reason these are loaded to 1600 FPS is because the density compared to lead with these pellets right here is very low. They're not going to carry a lot of energy. So they bump the velocity up from like 1325, which is standard 9 pellet double aught, to 1600 just to gain back some of the lost energy. And these used to be called Vital Shock, not Federal Premium. If you go back a few years, the old box was the red and gold box. It said Federal Vital Shock on it. They rebranded these to Federal Premium, and I'm not sure when these were discontinued, but this isn't real old. It might only be 2 or 3 years old. I don't usually show this part, but whenever I open up these shells, I always take these pliers right here, and I squeeze the pellets to see if they're high antimony, hard cast lead, or just pure soft lead. Well, I don't think this is going to tell us much, because this is supposed to have tungsten in it, and steel shot some pretty hard stuff anyway. But this being a blend of the two, squeeze that as hard as I can, and we'll take a look at the pellet real quick to see if there's any marks on it at all. Actually, yeah, I was able to dent that just a little bit. So the pliers here are harder than whatever blend of tungsten and iron this may be. I'd say it's just pure iron mixed with a tiny amount of tungsten just to give it more density than plain steel, would be my guess, because this is actually softer than I thought it'd be. I did not expect to be able to mark that with the pliers at all. Now, if this were a straight steel pellet, steel shot, not, you know, steel, you guys know what I mean. Steel shot is really soft for steel, and you can squish it with the pliers if you squeeze hard enough. And at its widest point, which is that band, this is .322, so 32 cal. Yeah, it's not double-aught buck. It's closer to single-aught buck than double-aught. But that is its widest point. I would assume if I took it the other direction, this would be a 30 cal. And I would be wrong. It's actually 1,000th bigger at 323. So yeah, single-aught. Here's the wad. It is the flight control. If you've never seen these before, they open from the rear. You'll notice those slits in the bottom of it. Yeah, this opens from the rear, and it does have 3 air brakes built into the side of it. Whenever these open, they, well, I'll try to pop one out for you. You can see it right there. They hinge open. Guys, these wads are tough. They are hard to work with. Yeah. Alright, well, you get the idea. These open up, and the back of it opens up. What does that do? Well, the wad releases from the shot slower, leading to much tighter patterns downrange. In theory, when we have tested these, it has not worked at all. I don't know if this is the original flight control or the flight control flex, but we've tested both. And hate to say it, but the patterns we've gotten with either one have been kind of terrible. The only one we had good luck with was the 10 gauge Mag Shock 2-ounce 1300 FPS 4s. The cylinder bore, no, it was the IC choke, did the best. And with the 12 gauge, it was 9 pellet double-aught buck, lead buckshot. And none of the patterns we got were what I would call good at 42 yards. And well, besides those two, we've tested 1 or 2 shells here and there of other stuff, 16 gauge, and we've just never been satisfied with the flight control wad. We'd rather have something like, well, let's see here, a TPS wad. Sorry, that's not a TPS wad, this is a CSD. But you get the idea. A full-length wad, just slit it however you want. These always, in our experience, outdo the flight controls. A lot of people don't like the flight control, and then again, there's a lot of people that do. They swear by them. I'm just not a fan. Anyway, here's the hull. Yep, 2 3/4 inch, brass-plated steel head on it. It does have a Federal primer. However, the 209As you can get for reloading, they have a pink sealant in there. This is white. I'm not sure if this is a Federal 209A primer, but it does have the disc base wad, excuse me, very, very low, and it's sort of bowl-shaped. These hulls have a lot of capacity. Not quite what a 3-inch does, but it probably has the capacity of a 2 7/8 inch shell. Whenever I throw this together, I'll try to make that crimp look a little bit nicer, but no promises. That plastic looks like it's already got some hard memory set into it, but we'll see what we can do. Last component in this would be the dust, and by dust, you guys know what I mean. Gotta be picky with what I say here, but it's not coming across on camera. This does have a green hue to it. It is a fine, high-density ball powder, similar to this one. Yeah, it's not coming across on camera, but it does have a green hue, which that one does not have. That is straight silver. And this one has 33.8 in it. I probably lost a couple flakes here and there, you know, transferring it to this whole wad right here. So probably 34. And it is much finer flaked than either of these two are. The grain size is more similar to this stuff, but again with a slightly greenish yellow hue that looks like that. So it's probably nothing you can get on the commercial market. So the idea behind these shells is pretty cool, meant for places you can't use lead. And for that, I'd say they do their job pretty well. Now, it being a tungsten iron alloy, I really don't think these would expand at all like lead would. Even smaller buckshot pellets, they do have a little bit of expansion, especially if it's, you know, softer lead. And these being such a hard pellet, not likely to expand at all. And it being that Saturn shot, it might spread out a little bit faster, but again, the flight control in there, if it works properly, should, you know, eliminate that. And these might actually pattern pretty well. But 1600 FPS, those are going to carry a good bit of energy, to them, excuse me. I'm excited to film this, guys. Sorry. Keep stumbling over words, talking too fast, and that's because I ain't done a breakdown video in a while, and this is a really cool shell. Stock keeping unit, I forgot to mention that. PHD 15900 for double aught, if that is of interest to any of you guys. Made in the USA. Anyways, I'm going to slap this back together and see if I can make it look presentable, although I don't think so. Again, this plastic is pretty set in its ways, it looks like. And it's lopsided, I just noticed that. Well, I call that a success. Leglodol Rebacitor BN2, and it evened it right out. No longer a pinhole, it's no longer uneven, still have a really nice taper on there, but it's still kind of ugly. Oh well. Now when I say kind of ugly, that's my own like bias or standards or whatever. I like really nice looking crimps, but that's pretty good, I guess. It's just I typically like my crimps to look like that, not like that. I guess they're not too dissimilar. It's just the one I did here on the left is a lot more even. Anyways, guys, yeah, these are not what I expected them to be at all. I thought these were going to be, you know, TSS, but I guess not. And when it said high density, I figured, okay, well, it's not TSS. They must be like a heavy shot or something. No, they're just higher density than plain old steel shot, which is pretty low density for shot standards. Anyways, we are doing a range video on these. I think Josh is, well, he has some railroad ties, or maybe some hickory or oak stumps, obviously seasoned and dried out and all that good stuff. Yeah, should be pretty cool. We'll pattern maybe 1 or 2 of them, or 3 or 5, I don't know. We have 10 of these, so we might do a whole box of 5. And then we'll do a penetration test on a couple of them just to see what they'll go through. We typically don't do penetration tests because most other channels do that. They don't focus so much on how good does it pattern at long range or close range or whatever. You know, we try to show you guys something a little different. How good do they group at a given range, or how accurate are they? How do they group? Stuff like that. We're not huge into penetration tests because if you use these or any other buckshot on the intended target, as people like to say, or, you know, hunting, whatever, they're probably going to do just what you expect them to do. I'd love to be able to do gel tests and all that stuff, as would Josh. We just can't afford that stuff. But we do have plenty of lumber laying around. And yes, I know lumber is not the most ideal thing to do penetration tests on when it comes to, you know, soft targets. Again, the intended target. But it should be cool nonetheless. Anyways, guys, I'm going to end this one here. This was a pretty interesting shell to take a look at. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to, a link to our Patreon, Instagram, Rumble, and merch store will be down in the description below. But other than that, you guys take it easy, and we'll see you in the next one.